Greetings from the Golden Nugget Sisters, Denver's chapter of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Our mission is to promulgate universal joy and expiate stigmatic guilt to all communities across Colorado. My name is Sister Cascara, a founding member of our Abbey. I am joined here today with Sister Bael and Guard Otto de Closet. Today we gather as a global community to honor the resilience of those living with HIV, to remember the countless lives lost to AIDS-related illness, and to reaffirm our commitment to a world free from the shadows of stigma, discrimination, and inequality.
We come here and we speak the names of those we can. We can't speak all of the names of those that have been lost to this. We can't speak tonight all of the names of those lost to those in this room. The loss is to humans uncountable, and yet here we are, we remain, and so I think it is incumbent upon us to keep remembering. And remembering is something that is not of the past. Remembering is not the past. It is something we do right now. It is something we do today. It is something that we bring into tomorrow. So let us keep remembering these names. I'm going to read some names that'll be read again because it's important that we just keep remembering these names. Let's keep all of this work, everything that the people who have come before us, all of the struggle, all of that, let's keep it with us. Let's take it along with us. Let's remember Roderick Wade. Let's remember Ray. Let's remember Abdullah. Remember Scott. Remember Janice. Remember everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking part in this.
Let us pause to recognize a universal truth. Health is a human right. It knows no boundaries of gender, race, or geography. Every person deserves access to the tools of prevention, the care of treatment, and the dignity of being seen as they truly are. Not through the lens of prejudice, but through the light of their humanity. We remember a time when fear silenced understanding, when ignorance darkened hope, and when compassion seemed distant. But even in those darkest hours, communities came together. They acted up. They spoke out. They fought for recognition, for justice, for life itself. Today, we continue that fight, not just for medicine, but for understanding. Not just for care, but for equality. We stand against the cruel weight of stigma and discrimination, knowing that these forces do not merely wound the spirit, but also fuel the epidemic we strive to end. World AIDS Day is not only a time of remembrance, but a call to action. It is a reminder that our strength lies in unity, in global solidarity, and in the power of every voice raised in truth and love. And so, after each statement, please repeat after me, let there be light. So, to illuminate ignorance with understanding,
let there be light.
To banish fear with compassion,
Let there be light.
to replace despair with hope.
Let there be light.
Thank you. The path to ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030 is clear. It is a path of inclusion, of rights protected, of communities leading the way. Let us honor that vision with our efforts and our resolve. May this day inspire us to create, to fight, to love, and to dream of a world where AIDS is no longer a shadow, but a chapter we have overcome. Together, let us shine because the light of justice, of equity, and of humanity will guide us there. One more time, repeat after me. One joy, more joy, all joy. Thank you.
This is a prayer for those that we love. To those we love, our mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents, cousins, and dear friends. May your presence always dwell with us, even as the years pass. Let our mouths still crack tender smiles when others speak of you. And we pray no one ever feels the need to whisper your name under their breaths, as though you were merely a glimmer from the past. You are still alive in us, woven into the very particles that make us who we are. But there are moments when we're walking, when we catch a glimpse of you in window glass, and we're gripped by a cherished so deep. For our own blowing hair, our chapped faces, our unbuttoned coats, we are speechless. We are living, and we remember you. Neither distance nor time can unravel the threads that intertwine us. Our hearts hold every breath of you. You are safely kept as hidden jewels. You are everlasting treasures. You are alive in too many ways to ever be forgotten or to go unspoken. May we carry your essence boldly. May your names always live in us with love. Amen.
We remember Gregory, Abdullah, Roderick, Courtney, James, Agnes, Bashadu, Shante, and Ray.
The Departure Lounge by Adam Johnson. He's gone to the departure lounge, you said, meaning, of course, he had not long to live. Your tone was serious. I smiled instead. Struck by the metaphor you chose to give, the irreversible process of decline, in one you must have loved in your own way, and how a quirk of speech can redefine the real sense of loss. Now, every day, the faces have grown thinner around the bar. We lost each other and we have not met, our separation even more bizarre. Based as it is on mutual regret, ironic in its total unity. Death and fear of death, of sensual fraud, darken the private chambers of the city that echoes like a vast communal ward with a dry-throated rage. Clenching our pills, we leave our doctors newly diagnosed. Think only of the virus that it kills and how much to confide or are composed. Armed with a clearer knowledge as we chance a cool, controlled reaction, I recall. Profound relief, a kind of arrogance I had not reckoned that the sky would fall.
Remember Orlando, Jimmy, Bill, Ashok, Craig, Dave, and Steve.
Heartbeats by Melvin Dixon. Workout, 10 laps, chin-ups, look good. Steam room, dress warm. Call home, fresh air. Eat right, sleep well. Sweetheart, safe sex. Sore throat, long flu, hard nodes. Beware. Test blood, count cells, reds thin, white low. Dress warm, eat well. Short breath, fatigue. Night sweats, dry cough, loose stools, weight loss. Get mad, fight back. Call home, rest well. Don't cry, take charge. No sex, eat right. Call home, talk slow. Chin up, no air. Arms wide, nodes hard. Cough dry. Hold on. Mouth wide. Drink this. Breathe in, breathe out. No air. Breathe in. Breathe in. No air. Blackout. White rooms. Head hot, feet cold. No work. Eat right. CAT scan. Chin up. Breathe in, breathe out. No air. No air. Thin blood, sore lungs, mouth dry. Mind gone. 6 months, 3 weeks, can't eat, no air. Today, tonight, it waits for me. Sweetheart, don't stop. Breathe in, breathe out.
We remember Valerie, William, Paul, Rudy, Janice, Tony, James, Tommy, Terry, Dave, Tommy, and all those left unsaid or unknown, but known by God. We remember.
Good evening and welcome to our service of Healing Hope, this 36th edition of World AIDS Day. My name is Justin Levy and I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Health and Hope, one of tonight's organizers, dedicated to helping those affected or infected by HIV and AIDS. It is so wonderful to see everyone here tonight as we remember those whom we have lost, honoring the more than 42 million people who have died worldwide from AIDS-related illnesses. World AIDS Day started back in 1988 as an international day for us all to unite by sharing experiences, remembering those lost, and standing together in the fight against HIV. One of the themes of this year's World AIDS Day is collective action, sustain and accelerate HIV progress. Organizations like Aurora's It Takes a Village are doing just that, working tirelessly to ensure then no communities are left behind, providing quality healthcare services in the fight against HIV and AIDS. In just a few minutes, you're going to hear more from Amani Latif, the executive director of It Takes a Village, who will share some important thoughts in regards to this work, the resiliency of those living with HIV and those working in their support. There are many individuals and organizations I need to thank, as it truly takes a village to put together an evening like tonight. First off, our sponsors, the Mountain Sky Conference of the United Methodist Church, Dr. Sue Ham, University Park United Methodist Church, the Center for Health and Hope, and Park Hill United Methodist Church. The following organizations put in countless hours to help organize this important community event, including Crazy Love Africa, the Denver Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Gateau Bakery, Trinity United Methodist Church, Walker Music Academy, and finally, our community partners from throughout the metro area who have helped to spread the word about tonight's evening activities and encourage participation. Those groups include the Center on Colfax, 5280 Fast Track Cities Task Force, the Denver Islamic Society, St. Barnabas Episcopal Parish, Wheat Ridge Congregational Church, Temple Micah, St. Thomas Episcopal Church, Angels Unaware, First Baptist Church, the United Methodist Association of Retired Clergy, and Temple Emmanuel. We are grateful for all of these sponsors and partners, and as importantly, each one of you. Your presence and commitment to those affected and infected by HIV and AIDS is crucial as we continue to support the marginalized, raising awareness and compassion worldwide. We thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing your holiday weekend with us for this very sacred time. I'm Reverend Dr. Val Jackson. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I invite everyone to call me either PJ or Pastor Jackson. I get to be the lead pastor of this amazing church known as Park Hill United Methodist Church. And I'm standing here today on the one hand to say that we open our doors to you tonight with sad hearts because a program, a service of healing and hope like this is necessary. On the other hand, I stand here today on behalf of the Park Hill community to say that we open our doors with honor and joy to welcome you to this safe place where all people belong. No matter your race, your culture, your gender identity, your sexual identity, your health status, you are welcome here. And to say it even better than that, because of your race, because of your culture, because of your gender and sexual identity, because of your health status, you are welcome here. All people belong here. And the most important thing I need to say before I sit down is that just in case you need the restroom, you go outside those doors, turn left, walk straight, turn left again, and then the men's restroom will be on the left and the women on the right. You are welcome in this space.
Good evening. Greetings to all. I'm standing here. My name is Alice Arline, and I am the president of the Denver Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, one of your sponsors for this evening's event. It is truly an honor for myself and members of the organization to be here. If you would please stand so we can recognize ourselves as being sponsors of of this night's event. I want to thank all of you for being here on World AIDS Day. Today we remember and celebrate in solidarity people affected by HIV/AIDS, including their families, friends, and allies. Our organization, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, was founded by 22 courageous women on the campus of Howard University on January 13, 1913. The Denver Alumni Chapter was established on February 18, 1939, and we've been serving the Denver community for the last 85 years. Our intentional sisterhood is steeped in service to the communities in which we serve, where we live, and where we work. Our sororities programs are founded on our 5-point programmatic thrusts, which include economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. Our international awareness and involvement programmatic thrust is taking the opportunity tonight to unite in the fight against HIV/AIDS. We're here to support the people living with HIV/AIDS and to remember those who have died from AIDS-related illnesses. Please join us this evening after this event for a red balloon release or unrelease at the conclusion of tonight's program. This is a tradition for our chapter to symbolize prayers and wishes to those who departed and to honor the spirits who are no longer with us. We will meet in the reception area and go outside for the moment of the release. Thank you for having this special event to honor those who are no longer here and to continue to fight to keep us all safe and healthy. Thank you, and I'll say.
Greetings, friends. I'm Kristen Stone King, resident bishop of the Mountain Sky Conference of the United Methodist Church. I want to thank Park Hill United Methodist Church for hosting this year's World AIDS Day Memorial Candlelight Walk and Service of Healing and Hope, as well as the Center for Hope and Healing, for your advocacy over many years and for your leadership. Thank you to all sponsors, and thank you to you for your presence this evening and for your continued consciousness raising, and compassion as we honor those we have lost and press on toward an ultimate cure. Things have changed in the last 40 years since we began to understand the HIV virus, and yet the losses of 4 decades are still with us. 30 years ago, in the late 90s, I served as a chaplain in an HIV/AIDS clinic in Minneapolis. And the layers of grief among our clients, women and mostly men, in some ways was as devastating as the impact of the virus itself. Today, though we have new treatments and medicine available, we know that HIV/AIDS disproportionately affects persons of color, gay men and transgender women, and persons who are under-resourced. And so advocacy, funding, and resources and services is an ongoing and pressing need. In this season of light, thank you for continuing to be a light in the darkness. Thank you for living as people who are not without hope. Peace be with you in this season.
Good evening. This is my first time doing this. My name is Hassan Atif, and I'm Imani's husband. I'm here to introduce her. Although we're gonna have a spoken word speaker before she actually comes up here. I met Imani 44 years ago, and she was doing the work then. And everything I've seen over the course of that time has been an example of dedication to service. And much of what I've learned about being an activist and an advocate, I learned watching her perform these acts. And this was a very friendly audience, but there were many years when Imani spoke in front of hostile gatherings, where people weren't welcoming, where they weren't interested in being educated. And fearlessly, she walked into those spaces and I think in many regards changed people's attitudes and opened their eyes. I'm very proud of her. I've been watching this for years and I'm still moved. She drives herself nuts prior to any kind of presentation and anyone in close domestic vicinity. So I watched her do that this last week. But it's also been heightened by the anxiety of what may be on the horizon for those in need of these kinds of services over the next few years. And so I just want to encourage her through these next few years and have you all do the same. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Monica. I just want you all to welcome and embrace Imani Lateef.
Good evening. 1.2 million people were diagnosed with AIDS or AIDS-related viruses and/or symptoms as of last year. And the piece that I am going to read, which is an original piece, is called "The Sound of Victory: A Watchman's War Cry." Sequential notes of harmony dancing through times as those who have fought the battles fight to stay alive. Their goal was never to battle the battles of unseen fate, but to win the battles that have never been fought twice, 2 times, 1 time for the first time of the first death. But oh, here comes grace that propels those to survive to tell the story of those who have thrived in the midst of the things that have told them that this is in fact the end. The silence of one pandemic has fallen into the shadows of new cycles, of another cycle, of a cycle of pain and potential uncertainties, that we still rejoice in the soldiers who have fought with one sound of victory in the midst of a battle of an unseen foe. She came silently with no warning, at a time where no notification, no social that made media stand up and take notice. Those who fell up under the hand of shame suffered in silence until mercy said no more. It is here where the war cry began to cry aloud. Those who were once considered victims are now victorious, and they shared their war stories of spoils that retrieved in battle when the watchman announced her arrival, snatching back the hope of thriving beyond the lie that survival was the only option. So we stand in the shadows and we cry from the light, there is still more, greater power still coming. We stand and we watch and we wait. Thank you.
anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe, somehow you will when you believe.
In this time of fear, when prayers so often proved in vain, hope was seemed a summer birds too swiftly flown away. Yet here I'm standing here with heart so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. The hope, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe, somehow you will. You will when you believe.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. And that song puts into context a lot of what I want to say tonight. We are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. World AIDS Day is so personal for me because I've worked in HIV prevention and care since 1986, and because I've lost many friends and family members to complications of HIV. I worked for the New York City Health Department, and they put out an emergency notice in 1986 asking employees to transfer to this new HIV Program Services Bureau, which was developed to respond to the epidemic. That was the first year that the term HIV was used, which stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Most people said no, but I, being a newly divorced single mom, said yes. And it began one of the most amazing, daunting, scary, challenging, beautiful, fulfilling journeys of my life. And one of the reasons I'm still doing it is because there's still work to be done. I want to introduce you during my talk to some of the people I've met along the way and how they not only influenced so many of us, but they also influenced and taught the community, and they became activists. I want to tell you why it's so important to remember that while people are living with HIV much longer, it's still so important to continue advocacy and education. Still, people are testing positive for HIV. Last year, 11 people at It Takes a Village tested positive, and every last one of them was under the age of 35. This year's World AIDS Day theme is Collective Action, Sustain and Accelerate HIV Progress. I want you to leave here understanding how tenuous that goal is and what we need to do to ensure that we can indeed sustain what we have accomplished through hard work and activism over the past almost 4 decades. In 1986, we did not have a lot of the processes, a lot of the funding. Well, we didn't have any of the funding that's here this year. We didn't have any of the programs. I was an outreach worker, and I educated people in the streets of New York City, in housing projects, on the West Side piers, where gay men used the piers to vogue, dance, and even live. In the shelters, the parks, the beaches, everywhere. And if you met somebody who was sick, you had to take them for HIV testing, and it took about 2 weeks to get your results. And if they were positive, you had to get them into care, which there weren't many options. People didn't live long. Either they couldn't tolerate AZT, which was the only medication then, or they didn't have access to it because it was so expensive and there were no health policies or funds to pay for it. Ronald Reagan's press secretary joked about it at press conferences. He said, whenever somebody would ask him, what is the president doing? He would say, why? Do you have it? And everybody would laugh. Stigma and fear were at their highest. But you know what else was at its highest? Activism, outrage, determination. I worked for the health department, but I also attended meetings and events with ACT UP, which is the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, which was founded by Larry Kramer. It was a balancing act because you're really not supposed to be sitting on both sides of the table. But my mom, Dorothy Dash, who was a union organizer in New York, she taught me that you have to find ways to do what's right even when you take chances. Larry Kramer once said, too many people hate the people that AIDS most affects, gay people and people of color. I don't mean dislike, I don't mean uncomfortable, I mean hate, downright hate, down and dirty hate. And Larry always included, when he was fighting, he always included everybody. He always wanted to make sure that all communities got the message and were included. He also said, though, I was trying to make people united and angry. I was known as the angriest man in the world, mainly because I discovered that anger got you further than being nice. So a whole lot of us, if those of you that know me, that's where I get this anger from, right? In 1990, we chained ourselves to the Albany, New York State Capitol building. Now, many of you have heard that before, but what you might not have heard is that we had driven up there in a caravan, and I was one of the only women there. But when the police announced that if anyone was still chained in 10 minutes, they would be arrested, I meekly told my fellow protesters I had to unchain myself. I had a son to get back home to. Surprisingly, they all applauded me, and somebody came over to help me unchain. We protested Mayor Koch for his inactivity with HIV and his denial of being gay, even though he was very out in the gay community, when his admission could have helped reduce stigma so much. We wore sandwich boards around City Hall Park. The front of it said, "Koch to New York Post, I'm not gay." And the backs were like, "You got to choose," and "I'm Marilyn Monroe," and "I'm Queen Elizabeth." And we all got to choose, and we marched around with that. The first person that I met during outreach who tested positive for HIV was Hippolyta Capistani, also known as Gypsy. I say her name out loud because she said her name out loud in front of audiences, and she was one of the bravest women that I've ever known. She was a Puerto Rican biker chick whose husband injected drugs and had passed away. She was living in her car with 2 boys who were 9 and 11. She was so sick, but she was afraid to ask for help because she was afraid that they would take her children away. I sat in her car with her for hours over a course of 3 days, trying to convince her to get tested for HIV. She agreed. While we waited for her results, I found a family shelter that would take her in. She didn't tell them that she was positive. When her results came in, she didn't tell them. She got care at St. Vincent's Hospital and got on AZT in a research project. She got an apartment in Brooklyn and moved in with her sons. And as she got better, I asked her what she wanted to do with her life now. She said, "I want to be a police officer, I want to be a court translator, I want to drive with trucks across country." And that wasn't exactly what I had in mind. But she did become an auxiliary police officer helping with parades and events. She did start school to become a translator at the Kings County Courthouse. And she did drive cross country with me to Colorado, taking the night shift with the trucks. There wasn't a lot of information about HIV in women, and there was absolutely no research being done with women. Gypsy began accompanying me to educational workshops I did and telling them her story in a time when women were not out about having HIV. She encouraged hundreds of women to get tested and talked to them about being assertive in their relationships. She passed away in 2002. One of those workshops was for women who were trading sex for money but staying at a women's shelter. We put together a presentation focused on the imbalance of, it took us a little while to put together these presentations, of power in female and male relationships. And when we got there, though, we found that most of the women were in relationships with other women at the shelter, although their clients were male. So, thus, they were not only putting themselves and their clients at risk, but also their partners. On the spot, Gypsy and I changed our theme to protecting their partners, which resonated more with them. We were able to bring a nurse into the shelter so that all of them could get tested. 11 of the 35 women tested positive, and one of their partners. One of the women, appropriately named Homicide, who had been to prison many times and had one eye missing from a fight. She became a very assertive peer educator who distributed condoms, educated, and was very adamant that the women use the condoms. She testified before the state legislature about the impact of HIV on women. and I was able to leave her with supplies of condoms that she distributed to all the women who were working the streets along Queens Boulevard. Larry Kramer, Gypsy, homicide. They were moving mountains long before they knew they could. At a time when death was almost a certainty, they chose to fight. They chose to become activists. They chose to believe. They chose to hope. When Rudy Giuliani, when Rudy Giuliani became mayor of New York City, he wanted to decrease the New York City workforce by offering buyouts to employees, $1,000 for every year of employment, unemployment benefits, and health insurance for a year. My husband, who I had met working at the New York City Health Department in 1980, was living in Colorado. My son was going to go to elementary school. My son was going to an elementary school that had metal detectors on the doors in New York. He was almost ready to go to middle school, and that's not the environment that I wanted. I had one friend out here in Denver who worked for Children's Hospital. She told me that there were jobs available funded through the Ryan White program, which had just started in 1990. But I was just so devastated that I wasn't sure this is what I wanted to continue to do. But she convinced me, because she said there were so many people in the Denver metro area who needed help, and I would be able to help. I applied and was hired in August 1994 at Colorado AIDS Project, now known as Colorado Health Network. I started as a case manager with over 100 clients, most of them people of color. There were only 2 black people working there at the time, and the clients of color were so welcoming. One man, Paul, used to come into the lobby shouting, "Where's my Nubian sister?" I could hear him all the way in my cubicle. Another client that I want to tell you about, Miles, he always wore several t-shirts that said, "A tisket, a tasket, a condom, or a casket." He had ridden the freight trains with his wife Inez for years. He was extremely concerned about Inez not getting HIV, to the point where he began speaking out in Denver and educating people in the black community about keeping their female partners safe. They decided to put down roots in Denver, and they stayed on the streets for months before they received a voucher for an apartment through the Housing Opportunities for People with AIDS, which also started in 1990. Miles and Inez's apartment was spotless. You could eat off the floor. It was decorated from Samaritan House in red and black furniture, including red and black coasters that they used when offering me beverages or water. Miles told me, "This is Inez's first kitchen, and I never knew she could cook." They were there almost a year when Miles became very ill with HIV complications. It was right before the new life-prolonging HIV meds were made available. But Miles had made peace with his illness because he thought, at least Inez has a place to live. After Miles passed away, Inez received word that she would need to move and give up her apartment. Why? Because she was HIV negative and the funds were just for people living with HIV. Miles's protection of her led to her being homeless, and I never knew where she went after that. Beginning in 1990, Ryan White funding provided case management, medical care, drug assistance, addiction, mental health counseling. Congress, over a wealth of objections, passed the authorization. This is life-saving funding. People are now able to live until old age with HIV due to the medication they take. People living with HIV who have mental illness or addiction can get the help and support they need. But this did not happen in a vacuum. It happened with the activism of people living with HIV and their allies. It happened because people didn't take no for an answer and wouldn't accept the discrimination and the mistreatment. And these are the people that I celebrate tonight. These are the people I shed tears for because they were relatively young and they should be here, but research and legislation took too long. These are the people who, when faced with life and death, chose to fight. Of course, there are many more who have moved into those spaces and are doing some amazing life-changing work here in Colorado, the United States, and throughout the world. And some of you, don't let me make you get up, but some of you are right here in this room, who have really, really made that fight and have really, really impacted the level of services that people get now. So my last person to tell you about is James. James was a white gay man whose family turned him away when he came out in his early 20s. He was then when I met him, he was in his mid-30s. He was one of my clients. James found love and support from his first boyfriend, a black man named Danny. Danny's father was a well-known pastor in Denver, and he grew up in the church. His family had no idea he was gay, nor would they approve. He spent most of his time with James, but still had a room at home. I visited James often as his case manager, and I brought him chocolate Frosties from Wendy's, which he ate because his mouth was painful and he couldn't eat much. One day he asked me to go get him a Frosty. Danny nodded that I should go. When I came back with the Frosty, James was gone. He was dead. They held a service for him at MCC at the Rockies. How many people know that place? It's a wonderful church where most of the congregation was gay. I don't know how many of you remember a guy named Bob Enyart. If you do, raise your hand. A psychopathic homophobe who made fun of people dying from HIV on his cable show. Well, Bob decided to show James's obituary photo and say all kinds of vile things about him. As a result, the news channels were present at James's service. The church was full, the service was very nice, and I saw Danny there, all dressed up with a flower from one of the wreaths in his lapel. I had no idea that he would, after the obituary was read, march to the front of the church and ask the pastor to speak. He said he knew when he went home, he would be asked to remove his belongings and never see his family again. But he was so devastated at what was said about the man he had loved for so many years that he could not remain silent. He talked about what a lovely man James was. He talked about how James thought the reason he wouldn't introduce him to his family is because James was white and Danny was black. And that was not the reason. He denounced Bob Enyart and anybody else who was so full of hate that they could defile the memory of someone they didn't even know. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever witnessed. And Danny was right. He was put out of his home that evening after the news was shown. But Danny was an activist. This is what we're looking at right now as we enter the next 4 years of uncertainty. Admiral Rachel Levine said, "We must all come together to remember the millions of people we have lost to HIV and AIDS. In their memory, we know we must take action to continually improve, resource, and further the reach of programs to communities most impacted by HIV. The progress we have achieved thus far is a testament to the power of community action." I have spent many sleepless nights worrying about the people that we serve and whether they'll be able to access medical care and medications during the next 4 years, whether the strides we made will be sustained, whether gay men and transgender women will lose the progress they've made in terms of their rights. But I am going to take a word from our song tonight. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. I'm going to keep believing in our power to change and to overcome obstacles. I founded It Takes a Village in 2002 to provide a place where people of color, particularly those in the LGBTQ community, would feel welcome and safe and free to give back to the community as peer educators and outreach workers. Now it takes a village as a home to everybody. Everybody's part of our village. Please visit our website at ittakesavillage.colorado.org if you need to refer someone. And I will repeat what I said last week when accepting the proclamation. Please fight with us. Don't be just allies, be accomplices. Get into good trouble, like John Lewis says. That's the only way that we're going to be successful. And I so appreciate all of you being here tonight. Thank you so much.
For all the times we fail to understand the insidious evil of hatred and white supremacy, which undergirds the many ways we bring harm to persons, families, and all loved ones living with and impacted by HIV.
We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit. For all the times we choose hatred, harm, and division. We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit.
For all the times that we fail to really see and affirm each other.
We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit. For all the times we elevate intent above impact, trauma, and the traumatized.
We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit. For all the times we don't speak, act, or stand for justice, equality, and the respect and dignity of all people.
We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit. For all the times we allow white supremacy to steal our humanity and our hope.
We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit. For all the times we fail to choose wholeness for ourselves in order to choose wholeness for our neighbors and for all human siblings.
We come with deep regret for the wrongs we commit. Let us have mercy on each other. Let us disrupt the status quo, dismantle oppression, empower the marginalized, and create justice. Amen. Aseh. Amen.
Today, we resist white supremacy and choose each other.
Today, we resist egotism and choose community.
Today, we resist privilege and choose awareness.
Today, we choose to see each other's and hear each other's stories. Today, we resist alienation and choose connection.
Today, we resist silence and choose advocacy.
Today, we resist self-loathing and choose self-love.
Today,
we choose each other.
Amen.
Amen. Ashe and amen.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place could be much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you'll feel there's no hurt or sorrow.
There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. If you want to know why, there's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares for joyful giving. Then it feels that always love's enough for us growing. Make a better world, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me.
How about one more round of applause for the World AIDS Day Ensemble? It's beautiful. As we close tonight's program of healing and hope, we mourn our losses and we recommit ourselves to fighting AIDS, fighting stigma, and fighting discrimination, and ultimately to finding a cure. We celebrate and lift up those living with HIV and the amazing individuals and organizations that make a difference every day, providing compassionate care. On behalf of the entire World AIDS Day Committee that organized tonight's Memorial Walk-In program, we are grateful for you joining us this evening. Please be sure and join us in the Sanctuary Parlor for refreshments and to get your remembrance balloons. And we look forward to gathering together next year on World AIDS Day as our commitment to community continues. Thank you very much.
Draw the circle. Oh, draw the circle. Yeah. Draw the circle. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone. We'll stand side by side. Draw the circle. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone. We'll stand side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle up, all eternal bound, standing side by side. Draw the circle. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle.